a good part of the day with scam calls today. I even actually had phone IT to find out what I could do about it. I had 12 today.
I had 3.
And the numbers I'm getting all start with 220, so I think they're related to the town, so I always answer them.
I haven't received anything like that yet, so.
Oh, really? Yeah, good for you.
But the numbers all ran together. Mine did, so I didn't answer them.
No, mine are all 705-220. They all start that way. So, it could be Lynn trying to get a hold of me.
Okay, the recording's on. Just as a side note, you can't really do anything. Any number can scam or spam any number. I could pretend that my number is someone else's number and give someone else a call. Just because the number on the I guess the call display says it's someone in particular does not mean it's that person. So just be careful with phones. Have a good counsel.
The live feed is going.
Thank you to our wonderful IT team and welcome to everyone for our virtual meeting. I believe this was a year ago tonight, the last time we were in our council chambers as a council. So a big shout out to staff, particularly the IT team and all of staff for making our virtual council meetings seamless. And a big shout out to all of council for your resiliency over the last year. And of course, all of our residents as well. So tonight, for the opening of the meeting, I would like to let everybody know that we will be recording and live streaming on the town's YouTube channel, and that all of this will form part of the public record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And if you'd like more information about that bylaw, you can contact Clerk's Services. So we'll start with open forum, which we do at every meeting. We've had 4 people who have agreed to speak to us tonight, so thank you so much. And we'll open with our first speaker. I'd ask all of you, we've got a chock-a-block agenda, so if you can keep to your 2 minutes, we'd very much appreciate it. And we'll start with Mr. Bob Dudley. If you want to turn on your video and audio, please. Welcome, Mr. Dudley.
Right there?
Yep, and we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, Councillors. I just want to make some final comments to help convince you to vote no to the town staff recommendation to make the beach on West Street public. For 34 years, that beach was considered private. It was not until Friday Harbor came along that that position was changed, and without any notice to the residents. Only Friday Harbor seems to have been aware, and they are the only beneficiaries of that decision. When you think about it, the decision is whether it becomes a de facto Friday Harbor beach or remains a residence beach. That's not a legal position, but that's a real world result if it's public. Friday Harbor and the town had 10 years to plan and approve an appropriately sized beach and didn't. We should not be made to pay the price for someone else's misjudgment. In discussion with the town, 3 things keep coming up. Innisfil residents' access to Lake Simcoe. We don't pay taxes on that beach. And you want one solution for all 46 beaches. Making it public makes it more accessible to non-residents in this situation. Hundreds of residents who don't pay taxes on it and sometimes prevent Innisfil residents from using it. Friday Harbor advertises globally to attract people, including day trippers. And on summer weekends, they have hundreds of guests, and on event days can be upwards of 5,000 or more. And on hot summer days, what do people want to do? They want to go for a swim, or they want to sit on the beach, and they get directed to the town beach. So when you boil it down, Friday Harbor is using that beach as theirs to make money. This is a unique situation with a mega resort adjacent to the town beach, and a one-size solution does not fit and will not work here. the only permanent solution is to retain it as a private beach. In your 2020 legal position, and let me quote, "We may use Block B in any manner we see fit." So for you folks, it can be real simple. See fit to make it private. However, if you decide to defer the decision tonight, then I'd ask you at least make it private until we have a final resolution. Otherwise, Friday Harbor will have it and make it theirs for another year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. And as you know, we're going to be discussing this later tonight under item C2. So you might want to either stick around with your video and audio off, or
Yeah, I'll turn it off and I'll be sticking around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Next is Megan Varga. Welcome, Megan.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, and staff. I would like to comment on the West Street Road End. The residents of Plan 1139 have been handed a hardship by the town that isn't warranted or fair, all because the word only was omitted. For years, this road end was private, and the property values for Plan 1139 reflected that. Now that the town arbitrarily deemed it public, all these residents have lost value in their property, and the town is not offering any mitigating compensation. The residents of Plan 1139 have offered suggestions and solutions to the town that are within their means to come to a resolution where the town and residents are happy. To be clear, I am not a resident of Plan 1139, so I have no skin in the game. I'm just on the sidelines watching the town diminish this neighborhood and once again side with Friday Harbor. I hope that council will not agree with the staff recommendation and instead help these residents without them having to spend their hard-earned dollars in legal fees, and put the private signs back up and leave this road end as private use for Plan 1139 as it was intended and as demonstrated by past practice for over 30 years. I'm also looking forward to Mayor Dolan's response to my email about adverse possession once this matter is up for discussion. I beg you all to put yourself in these residents' shoes and do the right thing. Revert the space back to private use only. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Megan. And you heard what I said to Mr. Dudley. So you're welcome also to stay until we have that debate. Next is Ben, Onyuki?
Onaki.
Onaki. I'm so sorry, Ben.
I'm used to it. Don't worry. Nobody can get it, so it's fine.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here tonight to speak to you about the Friday Harbor situation regarding the West Street Beach. I find it quite unfair that Friday Harbor chose to use their legal team to find legal loopholes that would allow them to change what was a longstanding neighborhood privilege. It's also doubly unfair that any resident who has deeded access to the West Street Beach must put themselves in debt in order to attempt to reverse the decision that was made without any consultation or notice given to said residents. A rough estimate from a legal representative started at $35,000 and can go as far as $100,000 or more. When I first learned about this debacle, I sent emails to my realtor and legal counsel asking why this wasn't brought up when we first purchased the property. Legal counsel came back saying they didn't see anything that raised flags, and my realtor found nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, my realtor had their in-house counsel pull property details, and they found no mention of access becoming public in any legal documents. So with that, I put it to you, the City Council of Innisfil, to review not only the West Street Beach access situation, but also how this decision came to be. How is it that Friday Harbor was able to make a case that residents who've enjoyed private access to this beach for decades are suddenly revoked with no warning, consultation, or due process? Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Onaki. And finally, Amanda Villers.
1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Hi, my name is Amanda. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm just going to go to it just because I have quite a lot to say and I only have 2 minutes. So upon looking at the Supreme Court of Canada case number CV 14-19300, a new owner of the property in which the easement is located refuses to acknowledge deeded access right away. The deed is from 1965 and stated that the residents have deeded access to said easement. Furthermore, their deed has no wording that excludes anyone in the deeded rights. In the end, the Supreme Court dismissed the owner's request. This case is very similar to our situation and was ruled in favor of the deeded rights holder, even though it did not contain your technicality that the deed did not exclude anyone and say only the residents. This is the basis of the town's argument about making Block B public due to the fact that the terminology of the original deed from 1985 does not exclude anyone. Furthermore, in 2007, the city sent a letter stating that the deeded access of Block B to P1139 was in fact private. However, due to Friday Harbor's inability to properly design their beach area, the town has decided to punish the deeded right of way to Block B in order to accommodate Friday's Harbor demand. In short, we are getting penalized for the shortcomings of Friday Harbor. I am asking the town to really reconsider the staff's request. The residents of P1139 have been able to enjoy their beach area privately for over 30 years. It is not a large beach and would not accommodate the shortcomings of Friday Harbor's beach plan. I am having a hard time understanding why the town is suddenly deciding to change their mind regarding our private deeded access in order to solely benefit Friday Harbor. Looking at other deeds for right-of-way found in the Supreme Court of Canada cases, a technicality of exclusion is never present, meaning none of the deeds say it's only accessible to XYZ. It says, therefore, with deeded access to Block B, for example. This loophole of our deed not containing the terminology and allowing it to become public sets precedence over the rights of deeds in and around the area, meaning other people could now lose their deeded access. I hope that the elected officials we entrust to take care of our community can make the right decision and vote to keep the deeded access rights to Block B private for the residents of Plan 1139, as it has been for the last 3 decades and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villers. And I think that is the end of our open forum, unless I see any other people. Seeing none come forward, I want to thank you all for your comments. And now we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. We did have one walk-on emergency time sensitive item tonight, Council. It was in your email only maybe 2 or 3 hours ago. So I hope everybody has had the opportunity to see it, and would ask if we would allow that item to be on. We would require 2/3 majority vote under our procedural bylaw. So with the recommendation that we do allow that item on the agenda tonight, could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Orsatti and Councillor Fowler. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of interest on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you, please make sure to let us know at the time. And I was remiss at the beginning of the meeting to making us a statement on behalf of Councillor Carolyn Payne, who was sent her regrets tonight. Councillor Payne is taking a short leave of absence, and so all of council will be pitching in to cover her inquiries while she is off. And next we'll have presentations and petitions, and we have none of those this evening. Next is delegations. We do have one delegation tonight from Mr. Don Jerry from Taromi Incorporated. Is Mr. Jerry? He is. Hello, Mr. Jerry. Whenever you're ready, please, you have 10 minutes, and that includes questions if you want to leave time for those. So welcome, and start whenever you're ready.
Thanks for the opportunity. Is there any chance that I can give one of your staff a compliment before we start?
Absolutely.
So I had a call yesterday from Patty Toma. I think she's a deputy clerk.
Yes.
She was very good, spoke common sense, talked to me about what I was going to talk about. And she's a good lady. I've never met her, but She sounded really intelligent. And I don't know when she had her last raise, but I think she deserves one now. We talked about, things that are said that have ramifications to everyone. Things that are said, whether it's in council chambers or on the website, your website, Get Involved in Innisfil Today. And we both kind of agreed, I think she'd agree with me, that we agreed that, everybody's entitled to an opinion, but when opinions are held out to be facts, I think, and I think she agreed, council or somebody's got to kind of correct some of that stuff. And the other thing, and I guess we'll lead into what I was going to say, she said I had to be respectful. As Lee Parkin said, I got to be respectful. But, I got thinking about that. That's why I'm here. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield, I get no respect there. A lot of this nonsense started with a simple driveway that I put in. Councilors and staff have had my contact information for years. And yet, when a driveway started to go in, nobody contacted me to get the truth. The truth is that I did the proper thing. I got a permit from Innisfil Township to put an entrance permit in. And I also went to Simcoe County and to Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. Both told me, and I can back it up with emails, that I did not need permits from them to put a simple driveway in. And yet, everything went kind of crazy. Patty told me I'm not supposed to talk about specific councilors, but we had councilors making statements that I was told that I had to stop. I'm trying to find exactly what the wording, what the wording is, because it's in the letter I sent you, and it's also in Innisfil Today. That I was told to stop doing work immediately. That's totally untrue. We already had the driveway put in. The equipment was sitting on site. We were done. Nobody told me I had to stop. And again, nobody contacted me to find out what was going on. And to me, that's one part of the disrespect. One of the councilors went on to say that all agencies were now involved. And what a wonderful thing that was. Well, all agencies were already involved. I've tried to do things properly, but again, I don't think I'm getting the respect that should be afforded me. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in reports and studies that are on your websites. And yet a lot of councilors still want to seem to use the words wetlands and significant forest. The studies I've done, the environmental reports, 2007 was a letter, 2011 was a report, 2016 was an update to 2014 standards, 2017, we did another report, all state there is no significant wetlands, no significant forests. And yet, councilors seem to want to keep saying that there is significant wetlands and significant forests. And by the way, those reports were reviewed at my expense by an outside corporation from the township, an outside consultant that agreed 100% that my reports were accurate. And further, the OMB accepted those reports in 2016 And from what I understand from my planner, there was representatives from Innisfil Township that agreed with that and supported that result that ended up in the property being designated as future urban. Now, this wetland thing was resolved, and if councillors did their homework, they would see that in 2012, there was a letter of settlement signed by Innisfil Township, signed by Simcoe County, and signed by myself, that acknowledged that there was water being transferred from the west side of 25 Side Road through a culvert onto the east side of 25 Side Road and ultimately onto my property. In that 2012 letter of settlement, Innisfil agreed to block that illegal water transfer. It's sad to say they agreed in 2012, but they didn't do it till 2018. So was there ever any excess water on my property? Absolutely, there was. Where'd it come from? It came from the other side of the street, illegally. Just kind of trying to gain my thoughts here. I'm sorry. Going back to the driveway, there was a violation issued by Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority that said I was illegally putting fill in and illegally grading it. It was later found out that the person that signed that violation had never been to the property and was only sent pictures. I can't prove anything. As Patty said, they're allegations, but I got a pretty good idea who sent the pictures. And Lake Simcoe issued a violation based on pictures. Well, the person that took those pictures obviously wasn't qualified to make that kind of judgment because, as I said, there was never any illegal fill, and there certainly couldn't be any grading because there wasn't any fill to grade. Again, you know, it's just the disrespect thing of I'm trying to do the right thing, providing you people with all the information you need, and yet some people are so intent on raising hype and raising innuendo that we're doing something wrong. The big bad developer. I'm not the big bad developer. At another council meeting in 2019, I think it was September of 2019, a councillor member said that I had gone to the OMB 18 times. And all anybody has to do is view that meeting. It's online with you people to see who that was. And the person that said I'd been to the OMB 18 times exaggerated that by 18 times. I've been there once. And the OMB agreed with what I brought to them. At that same meeting, a different councillor said, I hope this guy packs his bags and goes home. That's insulting, disrespectful. This community is my home. My wife and I have been here since 1974. We don't deserve this kind of treatment. This property is designated for future urban. The portion that, or a portion that I purchased in 1988 was zoned then as future development and is still zoned today as future development. I paid taxes since 1988. I paid thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of development charges I pay your staff, which I don't understand. I pay your staff at a rate of $140 to $200 an hour just to talk to me. It's just not right. Now we get to the land exchange. The land exchange, Mayor, is my effort to do something right for the environment and the community. I have aerial photographs that show that the majority of my property being farmed, being clear cut and farmed in the 50s and 60s. I've got those photographs I can show you. The only portion that wasn't clear cut is the portion I am offering to the municipality in exchange for their property. And it's a 2-for-1 exchange. It would preserve the only mature forest on the property. I think that's a good thing. I don't know why council doesn't see it that way. And by the way, you know that staff recommended to you that you accept that exchange. But again, it went back to some councilors that have been listening to the environmental activist that has been repeating misinformation, unqualified information. They accept her information, which isn't backed up by any professional studies, where I have spent, I don't know, between $100,000 and $200,000 in studies and reports that they're not reading, but they're repeating her information. It's ridiculous. I think there's a couple of things. Oh, the other thing, something else I wanted to say was, you know, Innisfil Council is accepting all kinds of applications that is rezoning farmland. Farmland that has supported people for years and could feed people or future generations. They don't mind that being paved over. But my little 35 acres they're focusing on because there might be a bat in it. It's ridiculous. I think I ask that that council look at my reports, understand that they're valid, understand they've been peer reviewed, and move forward with the land exchange. And I want to say to the public here, if council doesn't approve the land exchange, I have no choice but to develop that mature forest. That mature forest, I would like to see preserved. I think that would be a shame if it comes down, but it can come down. We've established that it can come down. I don't want it to come down. I don't think you should want it to come down. But if it comes down, Mayor Dolan and councilors, it's at your will, not mine. I think I'm just about done here. I'm sure there's other things I should be saying, but I do thank you for the opportunity to express my frustration. And I hope, actually, I'm going to tell you right now, one of your staff, Mary Nordstrom, she's your new planner, or planning director, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Mary is aware that I am working towards a plan that would remove the multi-story buildings and that would remove the commercial area. So the whole property would be residential. I'm working towards that. I'm trying to work with you people.
Hey, Mr. Jerry, your time's almost up.
And I hope that your council and staff will work along with me to make that happen. And again, thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you for
questions?
being,
I'm happy to answer them.
thank you for being very respectful. This is a house of government, albeit a virtual one, and thank you for being respectful, and thank you for sharing with us your thoughts and your feelings about feeling unrespected. We have not made any decisions on this yet. We did get an update from our manager of planning last council meeting. And as I understand it, it will come forward. And when it does come forward, will require that we still do a full statutory planning meeting. And so this is not, we rely, although we all have our opinions, we rely heavily on our professional staff to give us direction when it comes to plans of application. And I would just ask if Ms. Nordstrom, did you have anything you wanted to add or any comments to make?
Through you, Mayor. No, thank you to Don for his delegation, and we'll certainly be in touch to discuss next steps with respect to the lands. So thank you.
Great. So thank you, Mr. Jerry, very much for being here. We appreciate it, and glad you had your opportunity. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Waters.
I just want to reiterate what you just said, Camara. I want to thank Don Jerry for his respectful tone, and that hopefully we can move things a little more amicable in the future. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. So a mover and a seconder then for the delegation to be received. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ices, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I did. So I too also wanted to thank Mr. Jerry for his respectful presentation. Just maybe some clarification. So I have heard from Mr. Jerry that he did receive an application to put the driveway in. He said that in his letter, and he said it today. When we were given the update in the last council meeting, I read the report and I did not see that information confirmed. So I'm just wondering if staff can confirm that he did indeed get that permission, that application to put the driveway in, because that to me that's pretty important information, and I have not heard that verified by staff yet. So I'll ask that question.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I respond to that?
I'm gonna ask Ms. Nordstrom to respond to that, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. In response to Councillor Icy's question, yes, an entrance permit was issued for the property, but the entrance permit deals with the town's right-of-way and gaining access to the road to the property line. It doesn't deal with any activity or imply any permissions within the private property itself. It's a permit that's issued through our operations team. And I know that Nicole can speak further to it, but it doesn't speak to any activity that occurs on the property itself.
Thank you.
Can I say something, Mayor?
Sure, Mr. Jerry.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that, in my opinion, Simcoe County Forestry responded properly. They received the complaints as well. They called me and asked for permission to enter the property. And to answer Mr. Icy's question, they asked for permission to enter the property. They went down to the property. They said, we came down here with a stop work order document. And the officer that called me from my property said, we've looked at it. They said, you haven't done anything wrong, Don, so we're not going to issue this. You did what you were supposed to do. I was allowed to clear up to 20 meters. I cleared at the maximum 7 and kept the canopy. So Councillor Icy's Simcoe County Forestry confirmed that I did what they wanted. And Innisfil, Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority were incited, as far as I'm concerned, by people from, I don't know by who, to issue a violation without even seeing the property. So I feel that I've been wronged here. Hey, I'm not looking for any compensation, but I'm just saying that maybe somebody should say, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Jerry, we'll get there. We'll come back with a full report from staff with all of the answers, and we'll look at it thoroughly.
Thank you.
But I do appreciate you being here tonight. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, did I get a mover and a seconder yet for the, okay, mover and a seconder to receive the delegation? Councillor Waters and Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you again, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next is item 7. Is there any updates? I'm going to go first, if I could, to Emergency Operations Center. I think Mr. Keogh is going to give us the EOC update since our last meeting.
Thank you, Worship. Just struggling to get the button there as always. Through you, Worship, to Council, thank you. As always, this update is from last week, though we do our best to fill in the gaps. From the SMDHU, of course, we now know that we are back into the red framework. There was a lot of feedback received about concerns and support for being in that gray. The SMDHU informed us that we were moved due to concerns about the variants in particular, and if that situation changes suddenly, we could be moved again. As for vaccinations, we have 13 community clinics across Simcoe Muskoka, including one right here at the RSC in Innisfil. 7,000 doses of vaccines are being administered daily. Eligible persons can check the health unit's website regarding appointments, and I'll have more on that in a moment. Main message in these early weeks will be that we have to be patient, though it's great to see that we have such an outpouring of people who want to get the vaccine. We can tell you that the vaccine clinic opening this past weekend at the RC was also a tremendous success, and we do look forward to continuing to support the SMDHU. The SMDHU also provided us with this following information that has been distributed to the frontline staff from town and library that I'm happy to share here. So our vaccination appointment clinics, our vaccination appointments and wait list for dates up to and including March 16th are full. Those who are currently on the wait list will be contacted by the health unit with an appointment date between March 10th and the 16th. The SMDHU asks for patience as we call those on the wait list. The province of Ontario is launching a new booking system and call center to support COVID-19 vaccine appointments bookings very soon, and we will be able to provide more details about how to book via this new system as information becomes available. Very appropriate. There was a bit of a discussion tonight about fraudulent calls. When the SMDHU calls those on the COVID-19 vaccination waiting list to book an appointment, you will not be asked for your SIN or banking information. Appointments can be canceled through the link provided in the confirmation notification message up to 48 hours before appointment. And the SMDHU does ask, if you've double booked or booked by accident, if you can cancel that so that someone else can go ahead. The National Advisory Committee on Immunization advised that second doses of Pfizer and Moderna can be delayed for up to 4 months. AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson vaccines have been approved by Health Canada, and those developments are certainly increasing hopes that the SMDHU, province, and all our partners will be able to speed up that process and get as many people in our community vaccinated as quickly as possible, and of course make that light at the end of the tunnel just a little bit brighter. Some town facilities have reopened now that we are back in the red, including the ice rinks at the RSC. As for special events, we are in a holding pattern until we get further direction from our partners at the SMDHU. Special events are not being recommended, and there will be more public communications on this topic coming soon. One caveat I will say is the farmers market, and several teams are engaged just to ensure that we have that market season continuing and continue to support those businesses. Town Hall remains closed, but we continue to offer customer service online and over the phone. Regarding enforcement, you'll remember this blitz that we talked about a few weeks ago. We can say that for those businesses that had a COVID-related issue, our bylaw team has been able to follow up and resolve 100% of those cases. So we have 100% compliance with those businesses that we visited. So that is great news, and there'll be more public information to be released about that very soon. Library, as we're aware, resumed Browse and Go service this week, And the province recently announced that municipalities will receive some funding to help with operating costs associated with the COVID response. So we are working on a staff report to present to council in the near future, and that will outline an estimate of costs and how that funding can be used. And that is everything.
Thank you. That's a lot of information to take in, Mr. Keogh. Questions or comments for the EOC team? Just really, really thankful to all of you for all of the work that you're putting in. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. I did ask this question of Barry Vickers. There have been some Innisfil businesses who have noticed that there are some personal service websites up, and that they're offering similar services in their homes, and asking if this is legal. And so I just thought, for the record, whether or not they've had any other complaints around this particular issue.
I wonder if Mr. Vickers is on the call. I don't know if you can answer that. Can you, Mr. Keogh? Good evening.
Hi. So through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Waters, I haven't heard of any complaints in that regard. I did pass on the issue to staff, so we're aware of what the issue is and what it could be. And so we have our eyes open, and we have talked about that with our legal staff too. So it's a concern, and we're watching the situation. So we're actually reporting now. I think we're on the cusp of reporting daily to the health unit on what our calls are. So there's a lot of discussions that go on between different municipalities and the health unit and police services. So there's quite an integrated approach to all of these issues, and we are on an ongoing basis monitoring them and trying to do the best we can. But for the most part, we do respond to complaints, and we haven't had a lot of those that have caused us grief, though if we hear of them, we'll be paying a visit.
Thank you, Mr. Vickers. I want to thank all the business. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Keogh.
Probably appropriate through Your Worship to Council, just a friendly reminder that if you do receive those questions, whatever they are, to send them to your customer service team. You'd be surprised how many actually don't go to customer service. Sometimes on our team, we see a lot on social media, kind of hearsay, but if you see those things and learn of those.
I think he's frozen. But we think we got the gist of what he was saying. Is it's not good enough just to rant on social media. That you see some, if you see something, then then encourage people to report it. We lost you there, Mr. Keogh, but we got the gist of everything that you said. So thank you for that. I want to give a big thank you out to all of our businesses, 100% compliance, and we've had. Although we've had frustration, we have had so much local support for our businesses. A big thank you to Jennifer Richardson for Innisfil and everybody for takeout and keeping our businesses going. I also want to say a big thank you to all the staff who are working at the mass vaccination center. I had heard horror stories about a few of them, to be honest, about people standing out in the cold or people waiting 4 hours. So I was absolutely thrilled to get emails and calls last Monday about how seamless and wonderful and friendly the staff were. As Mr. Keogh said, the booking system now will go from 80 years and older for the mass vaccination centers. And the message from General Hillier is, if you are not eligible, please stay off the site. We don't, if people who are not eligible are using the site, you're keeping somebody who is eligible, 80 years and older, from being able to book their vaccination. So we don't need these sites to crash. We know that there's a huge anxiety, and we know that people are growing impatient. I I do not have a closet full of vaccines, and I cannot move people up on the list. I don't have that ability. Nobody here at the town of Innisfil does, and neither does even Dr. Gartner. So at this point, it's up to the Ontario team to roll these out, and we'll get them out just as quick as we can. And we just need everybody's patience to do that. So next, is there any other updates for County Council? Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. As everyone's aware, due to COVID last year, we were unable to have a pitch-in day, either in May or October. However, we had our first meeting this past week, and we are looking at options that we have available. There's a lot of brainstorming going on. If we do get the clearance for everything that we're looking for, it will not be the traditional pitch-in day, but as it currently stands, it's looking more positive than it did last year. And as things progress, I will continually update everyone so that they're not in doubt whether or not we will have one at all this year, because we have so many people in the town that want to beautify it. They want to clean up and make it green and better than it was before. So we're working on it, and we're still plugging away. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other updates, municipal associations, conservation authorities? County Council, Deputy Mayor, did you have a County Council update? I think he might have stepped away, so I will tell you that just one quick update that the county was very happy to welcome a new employment opportunity at the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport. So there's a company called Volatus Aerospace, which is one of the largest tech-enabled drone solution and unmanned aerospace technology providers in Canada. They're located in Quebec, but they're going to locate a significant portion of their domestic and international assembly operations and research and development initiatives to the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport, which of course you all know is in Oro-Medonte. And it's called the Volatus Aerospace Center of Excellence. So it's great. That area is growing, and we're attracting some pretty great jobs into that area. And that's all the updates I had, unless there's any more.
Councillor Nicol. Councillor Nicol has been holding up a sign to request.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see you, Councillor Nicol. Must be my screen. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Just quickly, just an update. The NVCA, I wanted to share some good news for council and our residents. The NVCA approved the 60-month permit for the South Innisfil Creek drain, just due to the sheer magnitude of that project, and to alleviate having staff having to resubmit for permits after 24 months. So the wheels are in motion and continue on this long-standing issue, but we're one step closer. So just want to share that on behalf of the NVCA. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Nicol, and thanks keeping your eye on that ball for us. Seeing no one else, then I will move to the consent agenda. So we'll start going through the items, and please let me know if there's anything you want to speak to, or if you want to debate, we can pull. So item 8.1, the special council meeting minutes from February 17th. A2, the council meeting minutes, February 24th. Under reports and various committees, we had B1, the Municipal Heritage Committee report dated February the 4th. B2, the School Zone Traffic Safety Advisory Committee dated February the 18th. I just wanted to say quickly that there was a South Simcoe Mayor's meeting last week, and I spoke to this item with the school bus stop arm cameras, and all of the South Simcoe municipalities seemed very much behind that. Okay, next is item C1, equity, diversity, and inclusion update. I think we should go ahead, Councillor Sadi.
Thank you, Your Worship. I didn't want to pull it. I just wanted to make a comment that I was happy to see this report in the agenda. I think you can't go anywhere or attend any workshop without recognizing the importance of diversity and inclusion. And I was happy to see the recommendations that staff had in that one. And also that, we can't make any changes for recommendations for other people without making sure that we include everybody at the table. And that is mentioned in the report. So very happy to see that. And I didn't want to let this slide by because it is important. We all need to be aware. We need to ask the questions. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, it was a great report. Lots of great work in there. And much of it, it seemed to me like something that, and embarrassingly, we over the years have done it where we've booked, public meeting or some big meeting on the night of that is a recognition of worship for somebody, and we haven't taken that into account. So the idea of just creating that calendar so that we know, what dates that need to be respected, I really thought that was great as well. I should also point out though, that the county is also got a couple of initiatives going on. And one of them is the Learn How to Build a Diverse and Thriving workshop. And they're having that workshop on March the 24th. It's a Zoom for 2 hours and it's with a bunch of partners. But it's for businesses and making sure you build that workforce. And then of course, the other thing is I haven't taken my picture yet, but I've seen a lot of council members who've taken their picture with their It Starts campaign. So thank you for everybody for that. The It Starts campaign runs for the month of March. It's a campaign against racism and discrimination. And the town and the library participates in this program. And it's just about public awareness, and it's created by the local immigration partnership and Simcoe County. And we're a proud partner of that. So every little bit helps. Okay, so we aren't going to pull that, but we're just going to thank staff very much for moving that along. Next is item C2, and that's the access to West Street Beach petition update. We're moving that to Kenneth Fowler, moving that to committee.
Yes, please. Yes.
Next is item C3, the loan to enterprises for the transfer and construction of cell towers. Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to poll it, but I read the report and I just wanted to say that that it's a good idea to consolidate all of them rather than, into enterprises rather than have the many different owners. And I do believe that the cost eventually will pay for itself.
Thank you. Any other? Seeing that we're on this item, I just wanted to take a moment, if I could, and introduce Hisham. I think I saw him on here somewhere. Hisham's the new director of enterprises, and he's come to us with a lot of energy and a lot of great ideas. And he's actually the president and the CEO. I called him the director. Hisham, did you want to come on and say hello?
Can you guys see me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Good of you. My computer is not working today, so thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council. To yourself, Your Worship. I'm looking forward to being part of the team and supporting the town in every capacity possible for us to grow and be a flagship entity in Ontario and Canada as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Hisham. Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to C4, which is the Innisfil Bradford West Gwillimbury IT agreements. I see our Moore system is getting more popular. Item D, there is a number of them. D1, the train whistle cessation update. Councillor Sadi.
Yes, if you could pull that item, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The staff report on the 2020 accessibility status report. Next is E1, bylaws. So I have a question to legal
Mayor,
services.
Councillor Asadi had her hand up for the last issue.
I'm sorry, Councillor Sadi, I didn't see you again. I'm having some computer issues tonight, so I'm sorry.
Thank you. I didn't want to pull this item. I just wanted to make a comment about the completion. It references also the Adams ramp. And both Councillor Payne and I were over there looking at it just a little while ago. And we watched a mother with a stroller and a cyclist with a bike. And we asked for their input and they said they loved it. And it made the connectivity to the other streets wonderful. So it was received with great reviews. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Councillor Sadi. Much appreciated. A lot of hard work went into that report too. I hate almost skipping over sometimes some of these really items that so much blood, sweat, and tears went into. But because they're done so well, it allows us to just approve them. So we were back at E1 in the bylaws, and I had a question for legal services about item E1. So Mr. Parkin, what if we don't approve it? Or what if I don't sign it? No offense to Dr. Chaperoux, but that's the bylaw to appoint George Chaperoux to the interim chief administrative officer, and also to remove our CAO. So I might choose not to sign that one. All right, so next is E2. Anybody want to pull E2? Seeing none. F, correspondence for action, there's none. And then there's several items under G. There was the in-services meeting, the police services board meeting, a letter from AMCTO, and a proclamation for epilepsy, Simcoe County. Seeing none. That is the consent list completed. And so now we will ask for a recommendation for the two items that were pulled to go to committee of the whole. And that would be moved by Councillor Nicol and Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't mean to interrupt, but there was an added item to the agenda. I just want to ensure that no one wished to pull that item, which was item C5. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Toma. Yeah, so in case, because it did come in so late, it's a report that allows, and it won't be on the agenda for people listening. It's a report that allows us to partner with SMDHU and authorize us to enter into agreement with them so that we can provide support staff when required for COVID. So as you know, everybody's been working 24/7, and as we have to man all of these mass immunization centers, and there's just so many people to go around. So when we can help, we certainly want to provide that help, and I know other agencies are too. So seeing none, we'll go then to the consent list continued, and I had a mover. It was Councillor Nicol, and the seconder, Councillor Orsatti. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we resolve into committee of the whole. And that's moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. So the first item on discussion was item C2, which was West Street. And I believe it was Councillor Fowler that pulled that.
I need a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Davidson, thank you. When this keeps on getting brought to our attention, and normally I tend to take these things with a grain of salt, but in this particular scenario, the one thing that bothers me is after 34 years, a word or two has changed everything that's existed for decades. It's basically opened the flood. And I understand the equality that if we do it for one, we have to do it for all. But in this scenario, we're not talking something that was 6 months old, not 2 years old, not even 5 years old. We're talking 34 years. And there was no clarification. And from the people who have been speaking with me, they keep saying the same thing. We weren't informed, we weren't told, and it's just done. Now, I'm not laying blame. I'm just saying that after 34 years, is there not a way that we could grandfather this in as a singular case scenario, that we can do this for the people? Because ultimately they're getting pushed out of a space that was deeded to them. After 3.5 decades, to suddenly go, oh, no, sorry, no more. It seems a little abrupt. It doesn't sit right with me. I think that the way it was done, the process, it was just, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So I was wondering, what can we do to maintain what we have here that's been here for, again, well over 3 decades? What options do we have?
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the question, Councillor Fowler. It's a great point, and actually a good place to start this discussion, which is that Council has all options in front of you. If you decide that the land is more appropriately private, you can direct staff to explore that option, and we can move ahead. You would of course know that there are nearly 50 lake access points. So others will undoubtedly be watching this case very, very carefully. I would suggest that giving it for free, quote unquote, even though there's a very interesting historical context here, no doubt, may cause challenges, but staff are prepared to explore the options that you direct us to. So if Council's direction is to pursue moving that land into private ownership, we're happy to come back to you with options about what that would look like. But again, just want Council to understand that we're happy to take your direction on this. Certainly the report speaks to the different options as well.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. And I'm going to get staff or Council to ask questions and comment, but I'm going to call on Mr. Parkin or Ms. Verbosch to speak to there was 2 delegates in the open forum that talked about legal precedent and legal issues. And I just wondered if you might just fill us in with Mr. Parkin.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, a couple things were mentioned. In 2019, the issue was brought to my attention. I think we received a complaint or a concern about how that property was being used, and that's where I first got engaged to look at the ownership rights of the town with respect to the residents in that area. And so we did look at all the documents. The rights to use that property were deeded to those residents of that plan when it was created. And it's called an area of user common. It's a little bit of a unique in terms of legal wording, but effectively it's a right of access or right of use over that property. And so as the owner, the town needs to use the property so as not to interfere with their rights of access. And so that legal opinion we did obtain in 2020, we wanted to be sure that we were interpreting that wording correctly, said that we do have the option of having that open to the public, and that wouldn't interfere with their legal right. But it also did say that we have the option to close it off to the general public. It would still obviously need to be maintained access to those people in that plan of subdivision. So just a little context there on the interpretation that we went through over the last few years. And there was also a comment made about adverse possession, which is sort of a historical legal concept of you may have heard it as squatter's rights, or when someone uses a property that they don't have permission or a right to use, that they over a period of time obtain an actual property interest in that property. It wouldn't really apply here because the key fundamental point of that concept is its adverse possession. So someone making that claim couldn't have had already a legal right or a permission to use that property. And those residents of that plan do have a legal right to use it. So while they have been using it all this time, they had a right to do so. And so that claim would not be able to be made.
Thank you, Mr. Park. And just before you turn your camera off, one more, and then I'll go around the table. So there's a lot of assertion that the reason that it was opened up was because of Friday Harbor. And I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but because the timing does seem suspect. But the complaint that originated this particular investigation, was it Friday Harbor?
It may have been a complaint as to use of whether or not people were coming over from the Friday Harbor side or they were coming over from the town side. But I believe it was a complaint about the use, and that's sort of what spurred on the investigation, at least from the legal side. And so when we looked at the property and we looked at that question of ownership and rights, and we also looked at the town's parks master plan, which has come up a couple times when we've dealt with these lake access point issues, and which is the policy document that sort of encourages us to increase the amount of lake access points for Innisfil residents generally, and that's another reason why we've kind of taken that interpretation that would allow it to be used by the general public.
Thank you, Mr. Parkin. Questions or comments? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Mayor. I think the legal team has threaded a needle here that allows us to do what we want to do. However, it doesn't mean I agree with it. I morally, I think it rubs me the wrong way as well. I think if the gentleman was still alive who had donated this, I think he would have said that he had deeded it to those people only. And because we found a small loophole in that, that we could move it to public. And I just don't think being next to Friday Harbor is going to work in terms of there's just too many people there. And so I think we should turn this recommendation down and seek another alternative with the existing residents who have that deeded access, some sort of ownership where taxes are paid and the town benefits that way, and it's maintained by the residents. So that's where I kind of stand on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. So I just wanted to find, and it may be clarification with our legal with Mr. Parkin. Deeded is not private to those residents only. It also allowed Innisfil residents to use this property, and were other residents have that availability prior to Friday Harbor development?
Thank you. Yeah, so the way it was described in the plan of subdivision was an area of user common to those properties within there. So whoever owns that property wouldn't be able to restrict or take away the rights of those property owners to access the property, whether it's the town or a private person or entity. And sorry, if you could repeat your second question, just.
So I was just trying to get clarification because I have a property in Ward 3 with a linkway to the water, and residents with deeded rights to that access. But it's also open to the residents of Innisfil to use respectfully as well. And that's always the key, respectful use and cooperation with the others. So, so I've gone through the pains of those organizations that have the difficulties, such as Alcona Beach Club with their property that is private, and then those and the frustrations also with the deeded. But deeded rights to use that access does not exclude other Innisfil residents from using that property. Is that correct?
If it's owned by the town, we've certainly taken that approach that we wouldn't exclude members of the general public. If it's owned by a private person or entity, they would typically keep it private and have access only by those with deeded access or by the owner themselves.
Okay. And then from if I may follow up with questions, Your Worship, then looking at that, because the town owns this, so if it was private, say Mr. Nickel owned that property and he was allowing the residents, that's his choice because he privately owns it. But when the town owns it, it's different. So if you made this one private exclusive for those residents only, are you setting a precedent in other wards that have the same situation? Because there's consequences to the decisions that we make. And so I just, just wondered from a legal perspective, I imagine that there would be challenges to that, would there not? To looking at the other areas, if you make one exclusive to those that are deeded, then what's going to happen in my ward to the residents that say, hey, that happened there, I would like this. So I wonder from a legal perspective, how are you going to manage the different areas in the town that have the same opportunities? And it may just be food for thought right now. We don't have the answer to that. Another question that I would just like to ask is, if this was private for these residents only, because you can't put a fence in the water and there's a shoreline and you can't put a fence on the shoreline because my understanding is Lake Simcoe Region Conservation restrictions about the shoreline, and we have that in our shore policy. So even if you put up a sign that says private, if somebody's swimming in the water and you're right there, I don't know how you would create some kind of a wall that goes into the water. Is it possible? I don't know. I don't know who to ask and staff. Ms. Bowman, thank you.
Ms. Bowman?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Orsatti, there's some certain operational challenges that would come in that type of concept. I can certainly entertain those should we need to go that direction, but you are right that there are complexities to that.
Can I just interject just because it's on that point? But my understanding from reading the report is that Friday Harbor seemed very amenable to doing what they had to do to try to keep their residents on their property. Is that not the case? Ms. Bowman?
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, and speaking with Friday Harbor about the operational situation at the site, Mr. Dudley certainly provided a few pieces that were of concern, including the gap that's currently in the fence, grooming of the shoreline, where canoes were launching from the rental business, and Friday Harbor was very supportive of addressing those concerns. So certainly there remain operational options we can look at as far as managing that site.
Thank you. Councillor Orsatti, and then I'll go to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And Ms. Bowman, I'll just ask her one question. Is it possible that a new sign could be erected on the Friday Harbor side of the fence that says Friday Harbor property ends here? It's a clear delineation point that, beyond that is not owned by Friday Harbor. I'm just thinking that, it might be a feasible option.
Your Worship, that was actually the fourth topic from Mr. Dudley was around signage at the site. And certainly last summer we had plenty of signs that we trialed and found success with. And I think there's room to play with signage at the waterfront as well to distinguish the uses of the various spaces. And we're happy to work with that as well.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. I had the pleasure of working with Nicole Bowman. I think it was last Monday. We went with Councillor Payne and Mr. Dudley, and we went down to the site and looked at it. And we were aware last summer, and the fence was cut down the middle where people were being escorted from Friday Harbor. And one of the key things Ms. Bowman kept bringing up, which I found interesting, is the word taxpayer. So the people at Friday Harbor that purchase there are taxpayers and are residents of Innisfil. However, the uniqueness of this was that it wasn't the people who were living at Friday Harbor that were being escorted through the fence down the trail to the beach. It was day trippers, and Friday Harbor was advertising, come on up and see our beach, use our beach, blah, 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 use our amenities. So Friday Harbor kind of like, whoa, it wasn't residents, it was day trippers that were being escorted across the property line. So that was an issue. And Ms. Bowman brought up the fact that they've met with Friday Harbor, or we're meeting with Friday Harbor to put up proper signs this summer. We also discussed the possibility of enhancing the fence. It's a chain link fence. It's probably been there, well, I've been here 40 years, that same chain link fence. It really is in bad repair. And how do you put a new fence in without destroying the trees that are existing there? So that's a concern. Councillor Payne came very clear. She texted me at 2:38 this afternoon with her comment, but I don't know, can I read her comment to council and Mayor Dolan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. After meeting with Nicole Bowman, Councillor Payne has said, "Hi Dan, I won't be at the meeting online tonight. Just wanted to ask that you mention in your comments about the West Street Road end that I'm not in favor of opening it up to allow Friday Harbor residents and guests to use the road end beach. Keep it for the entitled residents only." And that's her words that I'm quoting to you. It's just, this is a unique, it's actually not even a road end. I've never seen a car drive there and drive down the road to that beach because there's actually a stream that leads into Lake Simcoe. So you couldn't really drive a car there. So it's not really a road end. And before the town took over it, there were a lot more trees and shrubs in that area. So you could barely get a bike down the path that was originally there. And I think it's, if you want to refer to it as a road end, fine. But it doesn't, I don't think there's another road end at the current time that has a major resort that has activities that draws between 5,000 and 6,000 people at a time. So it's a more unique situation, and the way it was handled and done because of a loophole, it seems to benefit Friday Harbor. They're benefiting from that access to that beach. Now, if the fence is going to be put up and maintained with proper signs, that's one step in the right direction. But unfortunately, there was a loophole and the town took advantage of it. If the residents in that area can afford to purchase it back, I don't know. And they would have to pay the taxes divided amongst the residents on East, West, and South Street, if I'm correct, is involved in that as well. So the recommendation before us, I can't support it. And of course, according to Councillor Payne, she wouldn't support it either. So I think council is fully aware of what, if you haven't been to that location, it's unique, it's hidden. It's actually very hidden back in there. You wouldn't know, and there is no parking allowed on East and West Street at the end of the street, at the end of West Street. So it's always just been used by people locally who walk there. You don't drive and park there. It's a unique location. And I really do think if Friday Harbor really wants to be more of part of the community and show good faith to the community, they would respect the fence that hopefully will be built, or respect the existing fence and leave it to the residents of Innisfil, taxpaying residents of Innisfil, and the local people who have the deeded access to it. That's my point. So we'll wait and see how this moves forward for what kind of recommendation comes up. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And yes, I allowed you to read her comments, but she doesn't get a vote. Councillor Bowman. Ms. Bowman, did you have a response?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is certainly a complex issue, and we're very mindful of the local residents' needs and desires for that space, and I hope to find balance. And certainly in that site visit, we had a very productive conversation about what we might do at the site. Of course, your staff have brought forward a perspective that takes into account the broader community as well. Certainly the jewel that is Lake Simcoe is beloved by all, and not just those who live close to the waterfront, but those in inland communities of Stroud and Innisfil Heights and Cookstown and beyond, who seek out various waterfront access points in order to see that jewel. So we're mindful of maintaining spaces along our waterfront, but making them accessible to all of our community. So of course, we will accept council's recommendation and direction on this and move forward as you recommend. I would just encourage you also to take that broader perspective too, as you think this one through. And I think as Councillor Asadi mentioned, how that impacts our other 46 or 45 waterfront access points. And if I could conclude by saying the Lake Simcoe waterfront strategy will be examined likely in parallel with our upcoming parks master plan review. And that will give us a much better view of all of these waterfront access points and how we should consider them as they provide this access to the lake and to various types of recreation. So it may be a time that will allow us to look at this picture a little bit from a broader lens.
Thank you. Councillor Waters, then Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a perspective that when I was thinking of is that if you look at this with Friday Harbor being a private resort and a private beach, so residents from Innisfil cannot go to Friday Harbor's beach, but Friday Harbor can go to the residents' beach, which I think is totally unfair. That if this was going to be, if this was wanted to truly open it up, that anyone had access to both sides, that would be fair. But one is a private beach and one is right now is a public beach, and I think that's unfair. That the direction is only one way. It can't be two ways there. So I think we I'm going to just state what I said before, is that I think we should turn down this recommendation and seek another alternative, which sees the residents there getting back their deeded access to that and coming up with some sort of a process that allows that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, and apologies if I misheard you, Councillor Waters, but just to clarify, the Friday Harbor stretch of beach is public as well. So members of our community from any corner of it are welcome to be on that stretch of beach, as they would be at that right of way as it stands today. So they both are.
I would just say during COVID, there was a time when it was restricted, but is that not right? But normally it is public beach.
That is correct, yes.
Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I kind of agree with what Councillor Fowler and Councillor Waters and what the Deputy Mayor said, but there's always a but. There's going to be people watching because we dealt not long ago with deeded access, and I'm sure they're watching, and we're going to be accused if we make this private of having a double standard, for sure. I mean, and it's going to come back and just bite us right where it hurts again. So I'd be very careful. And I think we should all rethink this a little bit, because I don't know. I agree and I don't agree. And I'm having a real problem with this. Having seen what's happened in the past and not very long ago, and the nasty emails that were passed on to us. So I don't know what to do. I really don't.
Thank you. Mr. Rayner and then Councillor Ices.
Your Worship, members of Council, I might suggest that Council consider directing this back to staff The options that you're discussing tonight were not part of the report in terms of how to be able to provide access to the residents in the area only. There are some very tricky enforcement challenges that would come with making this private only that I think, to be fair, we should discuss with the community so they would understand what would be required in that case. It is a unique spot, but there are, as Councillor Orsatti pointed out, a number of other road ends, some right beside Innisfil Beach Park, for example. Just would encourage council to give us a chance to provide you with some more fulsome options so that you understand the precedent, the enforcement, and frankly would allow us to have another opportunity to speak with the community members as well.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner, and also to do further engagement, because we did get an email from somebody on the point who said, no, don't make it private. I need to go through there to get into Friday Harbor, and they wanted that fence opened up again too. During COVID, we made a decision to put to close up not regulation, but a place where people chose to launch boats in Friday Harbor because we thought it was dangerous. And boy, did we hear about it. We got hundreds of very irate people. We ended up going out and doing a survey, and we ended up reversing our decision. Again, it was the one person who lived beside the road end who wanted it closed, but all of the other people on the beat, on the Big Bay Point, not Friday Harbor people who've been there forever, petitioned to have that opened back up again. So I totally get it. And one of the other things I think we have to look at, if we do decide to make it private, how is that enforced? Are we going to get bylaw calls saying there's somebody from Friday Harbor on the beach and we're going to have to send bylaw up there to keep somebody from Friday Harbor going onto that beach if we own it? That just a couple of questions, but I'm sorry, I butt into line. There was Councillor Ices was next.
Thank you, Worship. At the beginning of this report, I didn't have a clear way on how to vote on this motion, but I would have to agree with Councillor Van Berkel and CAO Rayner that there needs to be some more thought put into this. I do not profess to be a lawyer on this, but it sounds like the town of Innisfil owns this beach entrance. You know, there are no taxes being paid on it. With the history that we recognize, should there be another option for the residents to take ownership of that? So I would move to defer this motion until staff can get some more information on some of the other options that we haven't fully considered, and that would allow the community there to have more input into this. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. I would ask if you wouldn't mind just holding your motion to defer so everybody has the opportunity to speak first. If you, yeah, Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Worship. Obviously, just some comments here. The West Street residents are looking for exclusivity or privatization. The town staff have identified there's no any actual deeded rights, but just a user common. The members tonight that spoke about this did discuss that this was a town beach, but they want it to become private. If it is town owned, and if it was closed, would the town not also have to maintain that for a handful of residents? The roll number itself indicates that it's town property, and therefore it's open to public access. We heard tonight about Friday Harbor and their residents accessing the area, but they are Innisfil residents too. I heard about the possibility of maybe purchasing from those in the lot plan, but at this point, there's been nothing of anybody's even coming up to say that they were going to purchase it. Looking at that site, I was there this week, is it even possible to sell this? Because it's a drainage and communications corridor with the line, the hydro poles and the telecommunications that go through that area, as well as the drainage ditch. To me, this site is not unlike the Guildford Road End or the Bayshore Beach or others that were identified, which are public and town-owned properties. Our direction to staff is to acquire and open up waterfront for public access, not to close them for private usage, such as here and there. So since there was never an offer to purchase to this point, it is a public access. As the Deputy Mayor identified, it is a unique place that other residents really aren't accessing. So I don't see the detrimental impact otherwise. To me, referring or deferring this is just prolonging the inevitable. But if that's council's will, I think that I think we have this many road ends, we have a direction, and I think that they should be all treated exactly the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. You know, I'm agreeing with Councillor Nicoll on this and a lot of comments that or statements that he made in his comment. Because, as I mentioned, I do have a deeded access in my ward, and residents have deeded rights to that. But residents that don't have deeded rights also use that. It's a narrow strip. It's not visible. Yes, there is frustration sometimes between the property owners beside it or near it, and that it's always a part of it, and it's juggling. But to take away the rights from other residents to be able to use that as well, when you're looking at in this one, 2 streets. So if it went to the deeded people, like I understand their frustration, and I'm not trying to demean the frustration that they are experiencing. But if we make it for just 2 streets alone, you're excluding all the other people that walk there, that use it, that may take their dog, their young children. So there's a lot of information that we need to take a look at. And I think, you know, sometimes before we do a knee-jerk reaction, we need to look at this more and have all the facts and about the complications and the legal implications and double standards if it is go for sale. And if it's not going for sale, how can we create a better relationship? Friday Harbor wants to work with this signage and all that. I think there's a better solution that we can have. So I'm in favor of not voting on this tonight until we have additional information.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll wrap this up. It looks like it might defer, so we'll wrap this up. But Deputy Mayor and Kenneth Fallon then had a couple of comments.
Thank you, Worship. The CEO made some very good points on this, and I think with Councillor Isis, if we defer this would be good. But I would like to have one question. Has anybody asked Friday Harbor why they diverted their day trippers from their own public beach over to the beach on the other side of the fence? And I've heard the stories from Friday Harbor residents who are residents and taxpayers. It's not the resident taxpayers of Friday Harbor that are using that beach, it's day trippers. So why weren't those day trippers who are buying in those stores there and the restaurants and that, why were they being escorted off their beach and moved over to the public beach? I'm using public beach in quotes. Who at Friday Harbor and why were the people that are day trippers not good enough to use their beach?
Ms. Bowman, or perhaps that's something, if that is in fact happening, that is something we can bring up. There's a new director there, or we can at least ask that question. But I would remind council that there are day trippers throughout Innisfil, and they go to every road end, and probably more this last COVID summer than ever before. There was road ends I'd never heard of or seen, and I had residents calling me, telling me they were packed. The one in Barrie that got all the news every day, it was so full. I can't remember the name of it, but a tiny little beach that just got inundated, and it was on the news every night. But all of ours did too, and it was definitely an issue. Much of it related to COVID. And Ms. Bowman.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, the Friday Harbor staff, particularly down at the waterfront, there are several layers of their organization as well. And I'm, through that conversation with them, unable to pinpoint that there was an actual methodology or any type of purposeful activity in that respect. I completely respect, the observations of those who shared that information, and it could be true, but it's not part of a standing operational procedure by Friday Harbor. Either way, they completely respect that if that's happening, that's not appropriate, and had committed to ensuring that the proper training and communication to staff was done this summer, so that if that was happening for some reason, somehow, through some train of communication, that would be stopped, and that Friday Harbor would be using Friday Harbor's beach, whether they were guests or residents.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Ms. Bowman, if I may ask a quick question. I've understood through the conversation that Friday Harbor's beach is public, yes?
Correct.
Okay. That being the case, as we have signage on the side of the fence that belongs to Friday Harbor where the property ends, can we not educate the public that feels that is being told, that is being informed that they are not allowed on Friday Harbor's beach? Can we have signage on the town side of the sign stating that Friday Harbor's beach is a public beach and they have access, they are allowed access? This way, if anybody says, well, you're not allowed on my beach, I'm sorry, here's the signage that the town put up. This is clearly dictating this is a public beach. You want to come to mine, I can come to yours. Let's level the playing field so that there's no miscommunication. I think that's a big thing that's happening here. And from what I'm hearing is when they're pushing the day trippers over, it's kind of like, well, we didn't have to tell you, but now if they're informed, that takes that argument away from Friday Harbor and allows a free flow both ways. Is that something we can accomplish?
Through your worship, we have lots of latitude with signs. Of course, we'll work with Friday Harbor and ensure that what we're putting on those signs is accurate and correct. But there's certainly flexibility to work, and that is actually outlined too as one of the points in the staff report that we would operationally apply at the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of good discussion. I just want to close on one item, and I think I received about, well, I think it was Mr. Dudley's letter, but then several other people sent the same letter. And I talked at the end about, to wait until there's a new CAO and fresh eyes were on it, and the new CAO would have a different idea. And I just want everybody to understand it's this group, it's council that directs staff. It is not staff that makes these decisions. We've had many strategic planning sessions going back to the Inspiring Innisfil 2020, which is when we first started hearing comments from residents who couldn't afford to live on the water and that they wanted more access to water. We gave staff direction through our place official plan and through our Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was done in 2016. Identified all these road accesses and how important they were to the community. So we provide that direction to staff, and staff carries it out. The only other comment I would make is if we are looking at, I'm worried about road ends, and Councillor Fowler will know and Councillor Van Berkel will know particularly controversial one in his ward that I wouldn't imagine would, if this one were to go through. And I know Friday Harbor is different, but there are issues. Councillor Nicol has got, I don't know how many commercial ice hut operators operating out of one road end, and there's reasons there to close it too. I mean, they come in off the lake at 12 o'clock in the morning, and they're making noise, and they leave garbage on the water, and they so there's everybody who has a road end has an issue that is attached to it. And then the other thing I would want staff to consider before bringing this back is the private beach clubs. So if I was a private beach club and I was paying taxes, I was paying insurance, and I was paying a maintenance crew to come in and fix it up and clean it, I would say, town, buy this property back from me, keep it private, and we're good to go. So there's a bunch of moving parts in this, and 46 of them, and they're all unique, but all with very passionate people who have very passionate thoughts about what should happen with them. So I'll leave it there. Now there's a motion on the floor. It has been duly moved and seconded by Councillor Fowler and Councillor Davidson. There was then a follow-up, which was a referral by Councillor Ices, but there was no seconder. Councillor Van Berkel, are you seconding the motion to refer back to staff? Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, and I'm going to ask staff, do you need this more scoped? Do you need direction about, I mean, you've given us your best staff report and now we're just giving it back to you. Is there specific information are you looking for, what information council is looking for? Mr. Rayner?
Your Worship, I think one of the resolutions that's in the staff report actually would continue to probably apply, that you want engagement, I think, with the community, that just some clarity for us about the timing. So that third resolution that's in the staff report talks about examining West Street Beach Access Point as part of the Lake Simcoe enjoyment strategy. And you heard Director Bowman speak to that earlier. So it may be helpful just to provide some time parameters in your mind. I'm not sure exactly on the lake enjoyment strategy review, but that's certainly where we would put it as sort of a matter of course. But if you have a timeline in mind, that would be helpful. And I did hear specifically some request for a fairly broad, comprehensive engagement on this piece. And obviously, if you want to direct us to explore private ownership with the landowners in that area, we can do that as well. So those three components, I think, Your Worship, is what I heard.
Okay. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you. And would that staff exploring the private ownership also balance that with the legal implications of the, I'm going to call it, as Councillor Van Berkel did, double standard, and how the legal implications of this in other wards? I don't know the right phrasing for that. Maybe our CAO can help me out there. Thank you.
Certainly through you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think you're looking at the precedent impact across the multiple lake access points. And this would be a really helpful report for council to get your head around those different situations. As you pointed out, Councillor Sadi, you have one that's very similar. I think Purvis Street is actually coming to mind as something similar. So we can give you that information and arm you with that information for the next report.
Thank you. Okay, good fulsome discussion. And the motion that we're actually voting on then is that one. And we have a mover and a seconder, which was Councillor Ices and Councillor Van Berkel. All those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? One opposed. Thank you. That's carried. Item D1, Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you, Your Worship. This one was on the train whistle cessation update. Councillor Van Berkel is my seconder to pull this item. And I just wanted to talk about this because the calls, the emails increase as people do not read the documentation or aware until they move in their house, and then, they hear the whistles. And of course, we had a lapse where the trains were adjusted, they weren't running as often, so you didn't hear the whistles. The moment that they start back up for safety, then councillors that are impacted by houses that back onto the rail line, and especially with berms and that, receive the calls. And I'm sure, Your Worship, you receive them as well. When they're not happy with the answers that we give them, they try to go above us. But I just wanted to, I had a discussion with staff about this report. I'm certainly not in favor. I do not feel that we are at the stage in the town of Innisfil in both our growth and our budget that we just passed to keep 0% and 1% to spend $30,000 to $50,000 on a feasibility study. I also think, you know, from growth, where we are in the growth area, it's a wrong timing for that. But I was interested in the report that, and I got an update from Ms. Jenkins. I asked about, because there was a mention in the report that staff could, council could direct staff to research the feasibility of requiring that all offers of purchase and sale for any residential property in the rail line must include a clause indicating that the purchaser is aware of the rail line and the associated noise. They did get back to me, Ms. Jenkins did, and that is currently in place. But I think it's a little bit, it's not as bold because it states in it that it references noise due to increasing road and or rail traffic. And I don't think that people, they just skim by it and they don't realize train whistles, and then they want them silent. So I wonder if there is this goes in for all new purchasers. Unfortunately, it would be logistically too expensive and difficult to put it in resales because some are private, it's hard to capture them all. But I wonder if instead of it saying and rail traffic, that it would be, we could reference the train whistle noise, because I think train whistles right away, you read that and you go, oh, I may get that. And to me, it's wording. You skip by it if it's not sort of more bold. So I just wanted to start that conversation. And it's a minor wording, and I'm not sure how difficult that would be to have that wording changed and what would be required.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel, and then we'll go to Ms. Nordstrom.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sure to you, as well as to me, it's a little bit of deja vu because we've done this, I think this is about the third time, train whistles. And certainly the last time, we did exactly what Councillor Orsatti just said. You know, we didn't want to spend the 50 or 60,000 or whatever it was at that time, you know, to do the investigations. But it's not only that. If you decided that you didn't want whistles, I mean, each crossing could cost you another $100,000 for safety equipment. So, and on top of that, I don't believe that it's a good idea, you know, to silence the trains. There's enough accidents already. So I agree with what she's saying, that maybe we should put stronger wording in the agreements if people are buying a new houses close to the railway track, and try again. Whether they read it or not, I don't know. I have to be honest, I don't get many complaints, but I do get some complaints. So the people that have lived there for some time, after a while, they don't even hear the whistles anymore. It's the new residents that come in that do the complaining. So if we can make that a stronger statement, I think that would be very helpful.
Thank you, Councillor. I have to say it makes me shake my head a little when I go to Tim Hortons and I get a coffee cup that says, "Caution, it's hot." And I feel the same way about people who purchase a house next to a train track and then say, "Hey, there's noise." But Ms. Nordstrom.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Orsatti's question regarding the working with the conditions for new developments. That's certainly something that we can take back. The recommendations as they are currently worded come from the noise experts making recommendations as to what the warnings should say and be carried forward in the warning clauses. But we can certainly work with our applicants and those experts in terms of including clearer wording with respect to whistles associated with rail traffic.
Thank you, Ms. Nordstrom. that acceptable? Because it's just to receive anyway, this, Councillor Waters?
I agree. We're just receiving it, but a point I've made time and time again is that I don't know why we allow developers to build right up to the railway. Why we don't make the buffer? Because CN and the railways say that you need a minimum. I think it's 30 meters, something like that, away from the train lines. I'm not too sure why we know this is going to be a problem every time, because people they want a house so bad that they'll take it thinking they can change that train whistle down the road. But we all understand the safety repercussions of stopping the whistles. So I'm not too sure why we don't, in our planning, make the buffer wider, make the noise barriers higher, and see if we can have a better design, as opposed to this coming back every 3 years and having the same discussion. So that's my 2 cents on train whistles. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. All right, so all in favor of the recommendation?
Yep.
Which was to receive. That's carried. So next we go to the RISE recommendation, and that's moved by Councillor Fowler and seconded by Councillor Van Berkel. All those in favor? That is carried. And next, consideration of adoption of the recommendations from Committee of the Whole, moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have no notices of motion that have been given to us. And we are at announcements. Announcements, members of council. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Worship. I thought there'd be a lineup for tonight, but I guess not. I just wanted to share with council and the public, 100 Men Who Give a Damn of Innisfil met last week. We still need a few members to hit the 100 mark, but the group itself has raised just under $20,000 for local charities already. And I'm just hoping by bringing this to everybody's attention that we can possibly find a few more members from the Innisfil community to consider joining to help these needy charities as well. And I did want to just, as I believe this is the last meeting, I wanted to just acknowledge, I've already shared my thoughts in signing all the cards lately about Jason moving on. All I can say is that I hope you find what you are looking for, both personally and professionally. Hopefully Windsor embraces change as we did, because we need more progressive towns willing to push the envelope to be better for all of us. I wish you good luck. I just wish you could go after we finish a few more of the projects, like filling Innisfil Heights with employers, completing the GO station and building out the orbit, and maybe even complete some regionalization. If you were to leave in like 5 to 10 years, just let Windsor know, yeah, just wait a minute, I'll be there. I'll see you about 2030. That'd be ideal. Best wishes.
Thank you, Councillor. Other announcements? Seeing none, I'm going to just tell you that one announcement, and then I'm going to try to get through a little speech. So the first announcement was in regards to International Women's Day, which was last week, and the Lieutenant Governor had a special event with all of her female aide-de-camps, and it was a wonderful hour and a half hearing their stories and all these very courageous women who've smashed the glass ceiling, and of course led by our very own Robin McCleary Downer, who is the chief aide-de-camp, the very first female chief aide-de-camp for the Lieutenant Governor in the province of Ontario ever. So it was great to see her virtually, knowing she was, just sitting right here in Innisfil, and yet it was through the Lieutenant Governor's. So tonight we are saying goodbye to Jason Rayner, our CAO, and I wanted to take the time at his last council meeting to thank him publicly for his many contributions to our town. I don't know if I'm going to get through this. I've had the privilege of working with Jason for the past 10 years on the planning and implementation of many life-changing, innovative initiatives for our community. The list is certainly impressive for our municipality. the municipality a size of ours, and I'm just going to go through a handful of the innovations that he's leaving with us. So under Jason's leadership, we were the first municipality to partner with Uber to create an out-of-the-box transit system solution, including a fair transit program for those in our community who need it the most. I remember the day when Jason came into work after picking up a lady who was walking from Lefroy to Innisfil Beach Road to work every day, and that's kind of where the idea sparked. We also got to be, one of our employees was named the top 10 innovators in all of Canada for that program. We were also the first municipality in Canada to accept cryptocurrency as a payment method for taxes, demonstrating to the world that Innisfil was open to new and creative solutions to attract residents and businesses to our town. And you know, that got us a trip down to Twitter headquarters in Toronto and a talk with all their employees there. It got us a shout out by Jack Dorsey. And the reverberations are still, I just did a podcast with somebody in Texas for this program. So we're still making gains on that front. We launched the Innisfil Accelerates, our economic development strategy and our startup incubator hub. And I'm so excited now that we have that new app, the Communicati, that's started up. That's going to be huge in our community. We heard everybody from the sewer backup last January that they just wished they'd had a heads up. That was the one comment that really kept me awake at night. They wanted a heads up so that they could have just gone down and got some precious items out of their basement. And now we have that. Thanks to Jason, it's up and running. We opened our one-stop Rizzardo Health and Wellness Center that not only brings together primary care and ambulatory services, but will continue to help create a healthier community. And it truly is a community effort, millions of dollars of donations and people donating their time to sit at the front desk. It's a real hub. And of course, once COVID is behind us, it will be even greater. And then of course, the approval of the Orbit. So Innisfil is a complete community design around how people will thrive, travel, interact, play, and work. So I've worked with a lot of CAOs here in Innisfil. I went to try to count them, but I didn't have time. So since 1994, there's been many CAOs come and go, and they've all left their fingerprint. But Jason has left a dinosaur footprint on Innisfil that will be with us for so long. So with that, most of all, Jason has made our work environment that encourages our employees to be their best self. One that embraces casual dress, self-funded leaves, flexible work schedules, pet-friendly workspace, and innovative meeting spaces. A work environment that encourages and drives creativity, which benefits all of our residents. I can only say that I am glad that Jason is going to Windsor, because if he was going 20 minutes down the road or a commuting distance, I think half the staff would go with him. So when you create an amazing work environment, your employees often become sought after. And although I'm sad to see Jason go, I think we knew this would all happen eventually one day. Our little town is now known for doing great things. And it isn't surprising me to see that the city of Windsor wishes to capture some of this. I did have some friendly comments after I, decided I'd speak to him again, was Mayor Dilkins in Windsor. And I said to him, prepare to be amazed and good luck keeping up. So Jason, on behalf of myself and council, we wish to thank you and wish you all the best. Let's take a few moments to watch the great memories and legacy that you're leaving us. I think there's supposed to be sound.
And have put hours and hours and hours of work into it. And I just want to thank you very, very much for doing that. And I really feel like I should thank people personally for this. Thank you, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Kathleen. Katie, thank you so much for your work on the budget.
I didn't really do anything.
Thank you anyway.
Okay.
To town.
In order to provide the development we're talking about in the orbit, it would be hundreds of acres of farmland that would have to be lost, if not thousands of acres, as you start to spread out, single-family dwelling instead of condo developments. And so we can do all of that in 800 meters and actually put most of our growth in that area over the next probably 30 years within that 800 meters.
Well, I think it starts by trying to raise the bar of what we expect from government. What if we actually imagine government iterating and piloting and testing creative solutions? What if we expected innovation as a need to have in local government rather than a nice to have?
And over to you, Mr. Rayner. I can't call you CAO Rayner anymore. The bylaw's been passed.
Thank you so much, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you, staff, for that amazing video. It strikes me now that anyone watching on YouTube who doesn't know anything about the town thinks, oh my gosh, the CAO just goes to barbecues and wears funny hats. And my gosh, it's so fun to work for the town of Innisfil. So that's over a 10-year period. So, just to put that into context. Anyway, Your Worship, members of council, thank you so much for the very, very kind comments. This is a very difficult moment. Innisfil is such an amazing place. It's full of amazing people. I'm going to miss you all very, very much. It's very, very bittersweet for me, for sure. But I do think, now that I'm not the CAO, now that I have the opportunity to, and the platform to say what I've been thinking about for the last few years, I think I'm going to just break the bureaucratic code. I'm going to break the silence. I'm going to tell all the secrets, and all the skeletons are going to come out of the closet tonight. I've got a slideshow. We're going to be here for about 3 hours. I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm just kidding. The truth of it is, I'm full of gratitude for the ability to be able to serve this community over the last 10 years. And I've learned a tremendous amount. You know, we haven't talked a lot about all the mistakes I've made, and I'm very grateful for all of you for not mentioning them over this last week or two, but I've learned a lot. You don't have to look past the Zoom bombing that happened recently with us during COVID to know that sometimes trying stuff under my direction doesn't work out so well. So I have learned a lot, and I thank you very much for that learning. It has been an absolute honor and privilege to serve the community of Innisfil, working with councils, working with the One Town, One Team over this last decade. I'm so grateful for the support that everyone has shown me. I'm extremely proud of everything that you've done, that staff have done, and I'm quite confident that these amazing things will continue to happen. You know, there's a good saying about people who work hard are very lucky. Well, the community of Innisfil works hard, and as a result, you know, it just is so successful. There's never a good time for a CAO transition. I think everybody knows that, but I know that you are you will continue to be served by an amazing leadership team, just an amazing staff. And I think they've proven through this pandemic that they will continue to pivot and, you know, passionately serve this community with the highest standards of ethics, integrity, excellence, and compassion and humor, which I think are so needed in this environment that we work and live in today. So you're in very good hands. And I think council has made the very wise decision of appointing Dr. George Chaperoux as the interim CAO while the recruitment is undertaken. You know, Dr. Chaperoux is well known to this community, having led our hydro company for many years, among other roles. And, you know, I've been blessed with Dr. Chaperoux's mentorship over many, many years. And I can't think of a better person to fill the administrative gap and keep the ship aligned with council's vision during this transition. And thankfully, council and your staff team aren't alone in leading this community forward. There are so many community champions that continue to dedicate countless hours to this community, and they don't get a paycheck and they don't get a Facebook page. You know, they do it because they cared so desperately about this community and believe in its potential. And I'm not going to call them out because I would definitely miss the people that there's so many people that would be on that list. But we're very thankful, I think, for those people who are working hard, not only at the council and staff, but in the community. I want to thank you so much for making these last 10 years really the most fulfilling of my life. And as I said to you when I announced, you know, Winnie the Pooh said, "How lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard?" And it is so, so hard. Thank you so much, council. Thank you, staff.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements this evening that anybody has? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Asadi.
Thank you. I guess I feel I need to make this an announcement just to recognize the great community that we have. Jennifer Richardson did a wonderful thing in Innisfil, trying to help Innisfil restaurants survive in a difficult time and for residents to be able to go out and buy a meal. So it was a win-win. A resident gets an outing and a restaurant that normally wouldn't have any sales or very low sales to even have any staff had an opportunity to be open. My husband and I, Jim and I, enjoyed having a meal. And then as counselors, you know that we can, you know, social media can really throw some curves out there when you're trying to support something. And I was challenged actually by a resident that I was enjoying a meal when others couldn't. And my husband and I went home, we took our meal and we talked about it. And we said, what can we do to make a difference? And we purchased meals from restaurants that we could spread to feed residents in Innisfil. And I want to thank the residents in Innisfil because I posted now Kona chats which can be a dangerous thing. And residents were so kind. I said, if you have been impacted by the pandemic or you know of someone who has financially struggling or mental health, just we need a lift, please nominate them privately to me and I will contact them, and my husband and I will buy a meal for them. It went so well, and we exceeded the number of meals that we said we were going to buy. And my husband's friends stepped on board. Newbridge Auto, they contacted me and said, we want to help out. I'd already finished and I did a second post, and some of the others, residents that call themselves the Garage Monkeys, said, we want to do that. There's an Innisfil contractor who also contacted me and said, I'll give you some money. Could you please give it? We fed 98 families in Innisfil with a meal. And, I am so proud of our residents and the businesses. And I just want to give a shout out and to the residents of Innisfil. Thank you for your kindness and not having a negative word in Alcona chats on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And thank you for that. And thank you for all the businesses who supported it. And, when Jason was making his comments about the community, Jennifer Richardson was the person who popped into my mind. And she's got another event this weekend with the scavenger hunt, and I'm going to be interviewing her tomorrow for the Mayor's Minute. So this coming weekend, if you haven't signed up yet, please sign up for the scavenger hunt. Any other announcements for the good of the community? Seeing none, then we'll go to the confirming bylaw, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw, please. Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. And adjournment, Councillor Nicol and Councillor Fowler. Thank you, everybody. It was a fairly long meeting, but I appreciate everybody's time and attention to these items, and we'll see you all next week at a special planning meeting. Thanks and have a good evening, and goodbye, Jason.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Call the vote. Yep.
Oh, didn't call the vote. All in favor? Sorry.
Good night, everyone.